This is the Analysis in Change with Nathan Williams and Neil Kieran.
Hello everybody, Nathan Williams here. Today we've got something a little bit different for you. We've got an interview that was done by Chen, our local leader in San Francisco. Now, the story of how Frank and I got to know each other, basically he's one of our listeners, and he's been listening since some of the early days, joined us on our Slack group, got some nutshells for doing so, participated in the conversations, and when we started at the beginning of 2018 doing live meetups and live interviews and live recordings, he tuned into them, saw that we were doing it and said, hey, why can't I do that in San Francisco? So he messaged me and we chatted and I told him how to do it. And he's never done interviews like this before. He's never organized meetups before, but he wanted to get involved and have a deeper role in the blockchain community. So I said, yeah, sure, let's just try it. He organized a meetup in San Francisco, and unfortunately it had to cancel at the last minute because the guest was suddenly unable to make it. But all was not lost. A couple of days later, he connected with the guest over the internet and recorded a full interview that we are going to present to you today. So Frank is interviewing Axel Schumacher, and we are going to be doing further events in San Francisco that will hopefully not be canceled, because we want to really see the San Francisco community grow, just like the Berlin community has been growing, with people coming out, being able to ask their questions and meet some of the more interesting people in the blockchain scene who've run successful projects, who have upcoming projects, who have interesting things to say about blockchain. So thank you very much, Frank, for your hard work and contributions. And here in his debut is Frank Chen interviewing Axel Schumacher, founder and CEO of Project Shivom. Keep on hashing.
Hey everyone, my name is Frank. I'm currently helping Nathan and Neil start an Analysis in Chains meetup in San Francisco. Today we have with us Axel Schumacher, the founder of Project Shivom. I first met some of the members of Project Shivom at the World Crypto Economic Forum. Axel, welcome to Analysis in Chains.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Could you please give us a little bit about your background and the story of Shivom?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I am a scientist, a trained geneticist, so I'm basically specialized on human genetics and epigenetics. So epigenetics is related to how genes are regulated and how it affects basically how diseases develop, especially complex diseases. So for a long time, I had my own research group here in Germany, in Canada, and in the UK. And after some time, so after a few years in basic research, so in academic research, I moved into the business environment. And I started to work with a company that developed so-called precision medicine platforms for the pharmaceutical industry. So our customers were the top 25 pharma companies in the world. And at that time, I got interested in blockchain technology. And I thought, wow, this is actually a fantastic tool that could help to solve a lot of the problems that we face in healthcare and in the pharmaceutical industry and in genomics. To give you an example, we have now very strict rules in Europe and all across the world that other countries will follow, how we can deal with private sensitive data such as genomics data, right? And to do really research on it, you have to have access to such data. You need to have the ability that groups from different countries can work together. So they need the ability to have a cross-border access to such data. And this is very difficult. And many companies, and I talk to many people in the field, they are really afraid of getting in conflict with these regulations, and the fines, they go into the millions. So we had to solve this problem somehow. And blockchain is one part of this solution. So to come back a little bit to my story, so I started to work on blockchain. I looked into the capabilities, and basically to train myself, I wrote a book, this Blockchain and Strategy Guide for the pharmaceutical industry and for the healthcare ecosystem. And it was a huge success. So I got feedback really from all over the world, and among them also from my now co-founder, Goresh Singla, who sits in India. And we, after some time, we thought, oh, why not build something on ourselves? Why not start this revolution in the healthcare system ourselves? And that's basically the reason why we founded Shivom. And now we are here, and we are ready to really revolutionize the healthcare field around the world.
So can you talk a little bit about the platform itself, how it operates, and how the blockchain is actually integrated into the Shivom platform?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So what we are building basically is a massive global healthcare ecosystem, which is supported by blockchain technology. Mm-hmm. Imagine you want to trade data on a global level. For example, genomics data or healthcare data from medical records and all kinds of other data that can be potentially helpful to improve your health. As a user of the platform, you can upload your data, your genomic data, or you can get sequenced with us and store it on a server in a distributed manner. And for this is blockchain technology is a fantastic tool because you can decentralize the data, which means you lower the chance that, for example, cyber criminals can hack a database and access those very sensitive data. At the same time, the blockchain architecture makes sure that you can give fine-grained access to this data. You use smart contracts to, for example, allow a pharmaceutical company to access your data, but you don't want that your health insurance knows about your data. They shouldn't look at it, right? Mm-hmm. And this we can write into the smart contract. And at the same time, we can put into those contracts that if you grant access to your data for research purposes, as an example, you get rewarded. So the pharmaceutical company that uses your data should give you something for it.
Right.
Right? This is just fair. And other companies in the space, so there are some famous companies you have in the US like 23andMe or Helix, they don't do this. They don't give the participant in their platforms that offer their genomic data, they don't give them anything in return. Mm-hmm. Here it's very different.
So it seems like decentralizing access to this data is not only beneficial for the users because they can control who has and doesn't have access to their data on a very granular level. And then we also have the ability for users to get incentivized and paid for sharing their data as well.
Absolutely.
Whereas the previous system, like users may not even know how to get their data into their own hands, and it's usually owned by other people.
That's right. And this is basically the most important part of it. We want to change how your health data, how your genome is really treated. It should only belong to you. Even we at Shivom, we have no chance, even if we wanted to access your genome sequence or sell it to anyone. This is really all up to the data owner. And for this is the whole technology, the platform, I think, is a fantastic tool. Yeah. On top of it, I have to add, we will add what we call a privacy layer. So we have state-of-the-art cryptographic algorithms that help us to make users that enter the platform anonymous if they wish to. And only with their consent, data is basically provided to third parties. And even then, what we are aiming to is that no one can really read your DNA sequence. It's only that certain algorithms can crunch this data, like deep learning algorithms. So for us in the long term, we want to implement AI components to the platform. Imagine what we could do in long term with this data. It's, for example, we want to add services like you could stream your health data from wearables or from medical devices onto our platform. This data could then be analyzed by an AI component and give you live feedback about your health and alert you in case you need some intervention, you need to see a doctor, or if you have to take a medication. So this is something we are working on, and we are hopeful that this will be a real solution in the future.
Yeah, that definitely comes into play when we're talking about this sort of new era of incentivization. So like companies can pay individuals for their data, and individuals have the option to like live stream, like you said, and that like changes the granularity of the incentive structures. How, like, I know you talked a little bit about how that might completely change the face of the genomics industry. In this case, who do you think like wins and who loses? Or if there are nobody in this case, who loses?
There are potentially also some losers, but mostly winners. So, of course, everyone, every individual on the planet that wants to participate in our large healthcare community, they all win. It's really a win-win situation because they get control over their data. They get access to all kinds of healthcare services, to wellness tips we will offer on the platform, to typical services like, from other services like ancestry information, so-called pharmacogenetics, so what drugs your body can tolerate and which ones your body should stay away from, things like that. On the other hand, we have also winning situations for our customers who use this database, like the pharmaceutical industry, or research groups from population health, for population health management, because we are collecting data from all over the world. And nowadays, especially genomic databases, they are occupied by genomes from mainly Caucasian ancestry, people from Europe, from the US, but the whole of Asia, Africa, South America, they're extremely underrepresented in those databases, and we want to change this. We have already a pilot project in India, and we are in talks with other governments and clinics all around the planet to add more projects so that we can really collect data from all over the world. So this is really also for public health, it's a huge gain. So who could lose? Well, this is clear. Those that are usually in the established healthcare systems earn too much money without putting anything in, and those are the middlemen. Like, we are connecting users or patients directly with healthcare providers. And in classical healthcare systems, especially in the US, you have a lot of middlemen that are basically not doing much, but taking money out of the system and making the whole healthcare system extremely expensive. And it's not only the US system, but the US system especially is really at the level where everything breaks down, because it's simply not affordable anymore. the cost for healthcare, they are, to put it mildly, insane. And this shouldn't be this way. And Shivom, and there are other companies in the blockchain space as well, try to revolutionize this space a little bit.
Yeah.
So we will also work with other blockchain companies and other stakeholders in the healthcare field to really build something new and put out these middlemen that just are a waste of resources and time and money.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about how groups outside the U.S. Are underrepresented. And that sort of leads me into the next topic about how Shivom is going to scale. And I have a lot of questions in this area about how Shivom is going to scale.
Yes.
One, I can just quickly run through them, and then we can see if we can hit all of them at once.
Just go ahead. Yeah.
First one is, like, I would think that sequencing like your genomic data and putting it like as a data file or something is going to be large. I mean, if we're scaling to a lot of people, we've all heard about how transaction sizes and in the block is really high, and what happens is your transaction fees will go up the more data that you decide to store on the blockchain. So are you storing genomic data off chain? You said it was like a distributed in a distributed fashion.
That's right.
Would that be like the IPFS system, or do you have another system?
Probably no. I mean, we will work on a system. We are working on a system where we have basically a hybrid solution. So I give you an example. Genomic data. We are talking about huge file sizes. Like in the end, we want to really sequence whole genomes, and that means you have to store files of a size of around 200 gigabytes per individual. And this, of course, you cannot just put on the blockchain. So this is stored off blockchain in basically classical cloud solutions.
Okay.
But it's still decentralized. So it's not one server one database where all the data is sitting. But we will store the data basically all over the planet in specialized encrypted enclaves on cloud solutions.
Okay.
Where they're really protected and secure. What is stored on the blockchain are the hashes basically of those genomes. And this has several advantages. First of all, you add a level of encryption to make the whole process more secure. And you have an additional unique advantage. By adding a hash, you can basically add a unique ID to each individual, to all of those healthcare data.
Yeah.
What it means is it brings a fantastic new advantage to the pharmaceutical industry and for all individuals, because what the problem is how companies now can use genomic data from databases is that they buy access to data from database A, from database B, and from database C. But some of the genomes that are stored in those databases, they are not only in one database, they are represented in several.
Yep. Yep.
And what happens is that you reanalyze the same data again and again, and you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So what you need is you have to distinguish the sources. You have to know, okay, we analyzed this data already, and for this we can use those hashes to form a unique ID. And this is a big bonus for researchers to use such a database. Right?
Yeah, as a data person, having a unique ID across multiple databases is really powerful, because then you can.
It's a fantastic opportunity, especially because what we will also offer is we will not only sequence people on our own. Every user can upload their already existing data as well. For example, if you had your genome sequence with 23andMe or another company in that space, There are already quite a number of direct-to-consumer genetics companies. You can use this data, upload it to our database, and get your unique ID. You can get the same services from our platform. Mm-hmm. But any researcher that wants to use this database, they know exactly, okay, this genome was produced by another third-party genetics service provider. Yep. And we can be sure that we don't reanalyze it anymore. And in addition, let's imagine nowadays the technology is at a level where most people, even if they get sequenced, not their whole genome gets sequenced. 23andMe, again, to come back to them as an example, they don't sequence whole genomes, they just sequence parts of the genome. Primarily parts of the exome, so only the areas of the genome that are expressed in our genes.
Yeah.
The problem is technology is moving at an incredible speed ahead, and in a few years from now, we will see that only the whole genome of an individual is sequenced. What happens then is a person gets sequenced again, maybe by using a sequencing provider, or because you are going into some hospital and they need your sequence and they sequence you. There are lots of reasons for that. This would create a huge mix-up in databases. And again, this is the same data shows up a second time or a third or fourth time. But with having the unique ID, the hash can identify that the same sequence was already there before. So you will keep your unique ID and just add new data to it. Mm-hmm. And this makes the whole process much more easier and more transparent.
Yeah, definitely. I think you touched upon how we wanted to get more just like not only Caucasians in the database, and we want to look at like people in Africa, people in Asia. Do you think there's going to be technology limits? Since blockchain is going to be a pretty complicated technology, how do you see people who do not have access to technology ending up on the platform?
That's actually a good question. We really try to bring those new technologies also to areas of the planet where it was not previously available. Let me come back to our pilot project in India. So there we are partnering with hospitals in rural areas, in very, very poor areas of the country. And so our team went there already, and we talked to the people how we can help them. We got into contact with the local doctors, and they were very eager to collaborate with us on this project. For example, to get people involved that really have absolutely no access to any medical facilities. But we can help them. We can go out to them and offer sequencing services for them. Okay. To do this, to support this, we will also have sponsoring opportunities so that governments or pharmaceutical companies can support such sequencing initiatives. We would then go out and give those people, first of all, an identity, and then get them sequenced. And they can go and access medical facilities in these rural areas and participate in modern precision medicine. And this will be tremendously helpful, not only for those people in the long term to be healthier, but also to better understand how we are all differ in our genomic makeup from depending on our ethnic background. Because we are, despite the fact that we are all pretty similar, we still have very different ways how we react, for example, to drugs. There are a lot of medications that were designed to work in certain populations, primarily in Caucasians. But the same drugs, they're like drugs for diabetes or rheumatoid arthritis and other cardiovascular diseases that work very well in the typical North American white male person, but they may fail with an Indian or African person or someone from Japan or Taiwan. So we have to get and collect much more data to really make this whole process individual. Drugs have to be developed according to individual genomes.
Right.
You shouldn't take any drugs that will not work for you. This just doesn't make any sense. Besides that, it's not only bad for you, you have a lot of side effects. It gives so huge costs to the healthcare ecosystems all around the planet. Some drugs, most famous drugs, best-selling drugs in the world are for rheumatoid arthritis, but they work on average only in about 20 to 30% of the people. If you can first look at your genome, find biomarkers that tell, okay, this drug will work, then we have a completely different game. You can directly from the beginning get the right drug for each individual.
Right. I want to bring it back to some of the scaling issues that or scaling questions. Have you encountered an issue of users not trusting putting their information out on in the cloud or onto a public blockchain? Because I could foresee like people who don't understand the technology or or even understand the technology and are afraid of security issues, that they wouldn't want to have their data on the put out like that. Have you seen any cases of this happening, and do you also foresee that as you scale?
Absolutely. It is clear that a certain percentage of the population, they either have not the knowledge to understand what it means to put their data somewhere online. Doesn't matter how secure a system is. I mean, a lot of them may be afraid of the whole process and will not do this. And there are studies published to it where people were asked if they would participate in research studies or if they would get their genome sequenced and participate in data sharing initiatives. And the response varies a lot from country to country. And in the US, most people are quite open to this idea. In Europe, more people are afraid of sharing data. It's a little bit more difficult. And in Asia as well. So it varies. So if they know the processes, they are quite open. But those parts of the population that are not really familiar with those modern technologies, they are very reluctant to share their data.
I see.
So it is clear that we also have to not offer the service, we also have to invest in educating the community. This is very important. One thing that we will do is that we will offer genetic counseling. So we will offer also a network of, so we build a network of genetic counselors that explain to the people and to doctors and to stakeholders in the healthcare ecosystem how this works and how we can keep their data really secure. And then in the end, it will be a learning curve. Once many people really participate, I think we will see that more and more people will accept this. And this is something that works. I worked previously for the German Red Cross, and we were doing also research studies with our blood donors, and we were asking them, do you want to participate in studies where we can use your data that's stored basically in your blood samples? And if you educate those people, you will find that they are amazingly responsive that they say, yes, of course. It's for the greater good. We can improve healthcare. We can improve the global health research by doing this. And we had a fantastic response at that time. So if you educate people, the vast majority will agree of sharing their data. Mm-hmm. Not everyone, obviously, but this is fine. And
you're not going to get 100%
do this with our platform. You can get your genome sequenced. You can share it, for example, with your physician to treat a disease if you're a patient. But you can then at the same time say, look, I don't want that my genome is shared with anyone else. Please keep it close in the vault and no one will ever access it. And this is fine. This is absolutely no problem, and this is good the way it is. Mm-hmm.
So how far along is Project Shivom right now, currently in development? I know that you talked a lot about putting genomics on the blockchain and all that. Are you creating your own blockchain, or are you building off of like the Ethereum protocol? Can you give a little more specifics about what's in development right now?
Yes. We are building, again, like a kind of a hybrid solution. That means we want to be as blockchain agnostic as we can be. The reason to do this is simply that technology advances still in the blockchain space at a very incredible pace. So we built already a proof of concept basically on our own blockchain architecture, but connecting it with other blockchains. Yeah? And we are working in close collaboration with several of the biggest other blockchains. I don't want to go there into too much details. We will have this some official announcement about those collaborations are coming out very soon. Okay. And there you will see that we have a fantastic backing of our technology in the community. And we will try really to implement several areas where certain blockchains offer better solutions for projects. Because in the long term, for example, we want to be able, of course, to scale. Mm-hmm. So we cannot use outdated technology. It has to scale. It has to be cheap. Yeah, you cannot have too many costs involved in this process. It's just not possible.
Well, it's good to hear that you have collaborations with some of the bigger, well-known protocols. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. So, backing out a little bit, the ICO environment right now is pretty chaotic, as I think you know.
Yes.
What would be your cautions and warnings to current companies who are currently looking to ICO?
It's basically what you have to do, what you have to look at is just before entering the space, you have to make sure that you have put enough due diligence into the whole process. You have to understand how it works, where the pitfalls are, and also have a mindset that is very important in this space, to be transparent, to be open with the community. Otherwise, you would run the risk of being seen as not trustworthy. Mm-hmm. And so openness is absolutely fundamental. If people ask you something, you should be open to answer those questions honestly. And of course, there are now things you have to look very carefully on, like regulatory changes, which is difficult because every new day we see new regulations or politicians are talking about new restrictions. So you have to be very careful what you do, what you say, obviously.
Yeah.
And you have to be honest. Yeah, this is the biggest basic. Yeah, you have to be honest and have a good business model, and then it will work out. I think if the community can trust your business, if you're open, lay out all what you have to offer, then I think the future of let's call it crowd sale funding is bright. We will see this much more, and the classical venture capital, I think, will more and more switch to new models. But this may change. So it's a maturing field. So we will see for sure changes. We will see that the whole processes will get more standardized. So it is certainly worth keeping an eye on those standards and to see what has to be done to be within the regulatory framework. But this can be done, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, we all seen our fair share of just people who said they were going to do an ICO and then collect all the funding and then disappear off into the wind. Yeah, especially for Shivom as well, I think there's also two layers of regulation. One is all the blockchain regulation stuff, and then you have all of the regulations that he had to deal with in the healthcare industry as well.
That's right. Yes.
So that it's going to be a long and difficult climb, but I'm pretty sure you guys are prepared for it.
Yes.
So just so our listeners will be able to know where to find Shivom, where can our listeners find Shivom? How can they connect to you? And do you have a good idea of when your ICO will be?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, just come to our website, shivom.io, and there you will find most of the information to get informed. We will soon have our white paper out. So there will be, it's very comprehensive. There we will cover really everything that we could thought of about that would be interesting to potential participants in our ecosystem and supporters of our idea. So we are trying to really be as open as possible, explaining everything. And of course, you can contact us. Our emails are listed on the website, and we are really eager to communicate with everyone. We will try to answer all the questions you can possibly come up with. And if you have ideas how to collaborate, how to improve the whole system, we are obviously open to be in contact with you, to collect ideas and to work with new partners in the field.
Cool. Awesome. This has been a great conversation. Is there anything else about Project Shivom that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, just come check out our website. We are really, we're having already tremendous feedback from all over the world. So there are partners. We will announce also a lot of new partners in the space on our website and on the PRs in the not too distant future. So I think probably from some point in April, people then can be part of our community and buy token to get services from our platform. It will still take a little bit until we have the platform live. The reason is that we want to also do a lot of co-developments with our partners, because I think what a lot of early startups in the blockchain space, what they often do badly is that they code some solution without really having their customers involved in the whole process. And we want to make sure that we have a product that is really usable for everyone in the system, for our users of the platform and for the customers that use the database, and our service partners that want basically to add their services to our ecosystem. And this is only possible if we are all open and share standards and collaborate, partner with each other. Mm-hmm. And for this, to give you another example, we will partnering. We are already talking to several other players in the blockchain and in the healthcare space to find ways how we can foster interoperability between different companies, between different blockchains to exchange data and user bases. So there's fantastic opportunities to collaborate. So again, check us out and ask us questions and be part of a really enthusiastic team, because we want to revolutionize precision medicine and healthcare on a global scale, and everyone can be at least have a small part of this. So
excellent. I'm really looking forward to reading your white paper, and I wish you luck on your ICO.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on Analysis in Chains.
Thank you so much.